Yesterday, I started to tell you about Fabian socialism and the influence that it has here in America. I had so much mail on it, and I tell you this every day, or I try to. Do not take my word for anything. Please, please. I don't ever want to hear you in an argument with somebody and saying, well, Glenn Beck told me. Don't. Don't quote me. Please. Know it yourself. Do your own homework. It's the only way that you'll be strong enough to be able to stand, is if you know it to the core. Don't take my word for it. Do your own homework. Find out that these things are true. Now, here's some people that were influenced by the Fabians. We have Stuart Chase. He coined the phrase, the New Deal. We also have Cecil Rhodes. He is the Rhodes Scholar fame. And, Bill Clinton and so many others were Rhodes Scholar. This is a Fabian socialist. Walter Lippmann, and of course, George Soros. Spooky dude. Saying now, I think, now, in the end, do you understand the power of the dark side? And then you see the lightning bolts shooting from his fingertips. Is it just me? Anyway, I want to go back to the stained glass window from the Fabian Society because it explains so much. And there is a method to my madness here. You have to understand the history. I showed you at the beginning of the time board. You can't understand anything unless you look at this from a very long line. I want to show you the stained glass window, and I want to show you what's here. If you look at the stained glass window and you see here, remold it nearer to the heart's desire. I was curious about that. What is that? Well, this window is originally from the Beatrice Webb House in Surrey, England, former headquarters of the Fabian Society. Fabian Society is still around. Tony Blair is a Fabian member. I can't tell you how many people are Fabian socialists all over the world. This was designed by George Bernard Shaw, who is here, the guy who invented the death chamber for the death camps. George Bernard Shaw. It depicts Sidney Webb and Shaw striking the earth here with hammers. But do you notice the earth is red hot? Here they are, stoking the flames to heat the earth up so they can hammer it, remold it nearer to the heart's desire. Well, what is that line from? Well, it's a line from Omar Khayyam. It's very interesting. Remold it nearer to the heart's desire, if you understand the whole poem. Could you take this down for a second? Let me show you this. Let me show you the wolf in sheep's clothing. There it is, wolf in sheep's clothing. This is the Fabian Society, FS, Fabian Society shield. It is a wolf with sheepskin covered. Now, why would you do that if you were a happy place? Above the globe is that. The window is now on display at the London School of Economics, which was founded by 4 Fabians, including Sidney and Beatrice Webb. Now, I want to show you the rest of this poem. This is what the whole stanza here. Here's the last line that's on the stained glass window. Ah, love, could thou and I with fate conspire to grasp this sorry scheme of things entire? Would we not shatter it to bits and then remold it nearer to the heart's desire? So, could you and I conspire with fate to grasp this sorry scheme of things entire and then shatter it to bits and remold it nearer to the heart's desire? The problem is, gang, this sounds crazy, but they're doing it. And it's not because they're evil. This is the root of American progressivism. I'm not telling you Fabian Society because it's irrelevant. Your new prime minister in Australia, I believe, is a Fabian Society member. Tony Blair was Fabian Society. England is riddled with Fabian Society members. These are the early 20th century American progressives, and these tactics are used here now. They're doing it. We showed you last night the 18 characteristics of replacing the free market system with what they said was state capitalism or socialism or fascism. In this book, they say that could be it, but we're just going to call it X for now. Stuart Chase wrote about this in this book. It's very hard to find. It is The Road We're Traveling. I showed you yesterday. All 18 of them have been accomplished now. And some of them are being done right now for state capitalism. So who are these people? Well, Stuart Chase, he graduated from Harvard in 1910. That was the same year that this guy did, Walter Lippmann, who shaped Woodrow Wilson's 14 points for the League of Nations, which then failed then, but then later came back just under a new name, the United Nations. Lippmann said, quote, "I've come around to socialism as a creed. I do believe in it passionately and fearlessly. Not that all men are created equal, for that's a misapplication of democracy. I believe that the people must express themselves in an organized society where religion is the dynamic." These were the American pioneers of Fabian socialists throughout America. Lippmann carried it to the Wilson administration later as an award-winning journalist, writing a syndicated newspaper column. Every journalist in America studies Walter Lippmann as he remolds the minds of journalists. Chase is the one that brought it to FDR. But to find the core of the insidious movement, we have to travel across the pond to Great Britain, where you'll find another man you've heard of 1,000 times because his legacy lives on. Cecil Rhodes. Ever heard of the Rhodes Scholarship? When he was 23, Rhodes wrote, "Why should we not form a secret society, but with one object, the furtherance of the British Empire and the bringing of the whole world under British rule for the recovery of the United States." The recovery of the United States? "For making the Anglo-Saxon race but one empire." There's your racism and eugenics again. What a dream, but yet it is probable, it is possible. Still, he went on to run De Beers Consolidated Mines, which at one point owned 90% of the world's production of diamonds. Isn't it interesting that all of the radical socialists were almost all wildly successful capitalists? It makes me think of this guy, de Tocqueville. This is democracy in America. Part one is how great it is and how it's going to change the world. Part two is, by the way, they're going to become people who try to change it and slam the door shut behind them because they'll have so much wealth. Now, this may all seem like ancient history, but I want to tie it next into the present. Stand by. Fabian Socialist. Until this week, you may never have even heard of Fabian Socialist. How is it all tied to Coca-Cola and Bloomberg? Well, they were the foundation of modern-day socialism and progressivism. We've talked about the man who coined the phrase the New Deal with his book, Stuart Chase, right here. Walter Lippmann. Walter Lippmann, here. He was all over this area. And the Rhodes Scholarship legacy left by Fabian Socialist co-founder Cecil Rhodes. In 1895, four people, four Fabians, started the London School of Economics. It is where the Fabian Society stained glass window now resides. It is the school where years later, all the way down here in 1949, a Hungarian named George Soros would enroll. He would graduate. He'd learn a lot there. He'd eventually move to New York and build a massive financial portfolio with what he learned. He became one of the world's most successful hedge fund managers, and by 1992, he was the guy that was given the title, the man who broke the Bank of England in 1992. This is when he speculated and helped devalue the British currency. But we all lovingly know this spooky dude is the man who funds the Center for American Progress, Free Press, Jim Wallace's Sojourners, the Tides Foundation, and a ton of other left-wing groups. His twisted and dangerous philosophy, in my opinion, was developed in Britain in the late 19th century, down here, and it is spread like a plague all the way through. All the way through. It has changed America. It is being shattered into bits. America is right before our eyes, so they can remold it nearer to their heart's desire. I believe they have a God complex. They think they can tell you what to drink, tell you what to drive, tell you how to spend, tell you what war should be fought, what shouldn't be, what charity is. They should do all of those things. Soros said, quote, "It is sort of a disease when you consider yourself some kind of God, the creator of everything, but I feel comfortable about it now since I began to live it out." Luckily, America has a different understanding of what God is. Only one God will win this battle. Have you made a choice yet? Because I'm going with the God that has a capital G and then only 3 letters in his name. You'll have to make your own choice. But remember this, do your own homework. Find out if these things are true yourself. Don't take my word for it. Do your own homework. And then tell a friend. Because remember, sunlight is the best disinfectant. A friend of a Fabian socialist and a guy who learned his lesson with Rudyard Kipling. He wrote a poem called The God of the Copybook Heading. Copybook headings were the things that we all agreed on at the beginning. They just said, you know, God is good, and kids would write it down. God is good to practice their penmanship. I'm just going to give you a couple of things here. He learned his lesson, and this is what he wrote after he saw Fabian socialism. "With the hopes that our world is built on were utterly out of touch, they denied that the moon was Stilton, and they denied that she was even Dutch. They denied that wishes were horses. They denied that pigs had wings. So we worshiped the gods of the market, who promised these beautiful things. They promised perpetual peace. They swore if we give them our weapons, the wars of the tribes would cease. But then we disarmed. They sold us and delivered us bound to our foe, and the gods of the copybook heading said, 'Stick to the devil, you know.' We were promised the fuller life, which started by loving our neighbor and ended by loving his wife, till our women had no more children, and the men lost reason and faith, and the gods of the copybook headings said the wages of sin is death. We were promised abundance for all, by robbing selected Peter to pay for collective Paul. But though we had plenty of money, there was nothing our money could buy. And the gods of our copybook headings said, 'If you do not work, you will die.' Then the gods of the market tumbled, and their smooth-tongued wizards withdrew. And the hearts of the meanest were humbled, and they began to believe that it were true, that all that is gold, it does not glitter, and 2 and 2 make 4. And the gods of the copybook headings limped up to explain it once more. As it will be in the future, it was at the birth of man. There are only 4 things certain since social progress began. The dog returns to its vomit, and the sow returns to its mire, and the burnt, fooled, bandaged finger goes back to the wobbling fire." I'm out of time. You have to read the last stanza yourself. Uh-oh, was that a trick to get you to look this up? Gods of the Copybook Headings, Rudyard Kipling. Read, learn it. Tomorrow night is a very special night on the program. It marks 40 days and 40 nights since 8/28. And tomorrow night we're going to spend an hour with 40 people who have taken that challenge. Has anything changed in their life? Oh, you don't want to miss this. Tomorrow night from New York. Good night, America.